So we are going to talk artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is transforming what defense agencies can accomplish, from improving collaboration and streamlining data delivery to accelerating mission outcomes and uncovering critical insights. As agencies move from pilot programs to actual operational deployment, what should technology leaders be keeping in mind to guide effective AI adoption? And to help us explore that question, I'm joined by Ahmed Ali, who is with Google Public Sector. And today, we're going to talk through best practices for AI implementation, as well as highlight some examples of how AI is already driving innovation across defense agencies. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Even though I admitted I am a Clemson fan.
Well, we're going to get past that.
We're getting past that. Okay. Or my USC friend here. Okay.
Go Gamecocks. Sorry.
With so much AI information floating around, first question I have for you is, what should defense technology leaders be doing to set the standard for AI adoption in their departments?
So the biggest thing I always like to talk to folks is, AI for the longest time has sounded like a science project. And for anyone who thinks that it still is, it's not anymore, right? This is no longer a cool technology, a nice to have technology, but like every enterprise leader needs to be thinking about how to directly integrate this capability into the most critical workflows that support whatever mission that they're responsible for. And so once you start thinking about like, I have to do this, then the plan becomes like, okay, well, how? How do I start integrating into this? And what we found that is really, really impactful is to avoid the instinct to say, we're going to decide from the top down how AI is going to be implemented in this capability. But actually, we've found like the most awesome impact has happened when leaders create tools that allow individual workforce members to come up with the ideas of how AI can specifically help them. And the way we learned this at Google is we have this concept of site reliability engineering. And basically, it's the people that run our infrastructure. We actually hired software engineers to do this. And the reason we did this is because people thought originally, like, you're crazy that you're going to hire a software engineer to manage IT. Well, it's genius. And the reason for that is because if you hire a software engineer to manage IT, they get really annoyed at having to do the same thing over and over and over again. And they automate the toil, is the phrase that we use at Google. And so in AI, it's kind of the exact same thing. If you give your workforce the tools to optimize what they do on a daily basis, you don't have to push top-down requirements. People will figure it out. And that's kind of what people are calling like agents these days in the AI world. But basically, it's like, it's giving your workforce the tools to be able to build agents into their workflows.
And so then, that then builds up versus just kind of top down, which sometimes you can get the priorities wrong, or you can kind of not really be in touch with what is toiling, what toil folks are facing.
Exactly right. Like almost like a million points of unplanned inspiration with AI.
So what are some takeaways that tech leaders should keep in mind? I mean, that's a great one as they go about their own AI transformation journeys. Are there other things that you all have learned?
Yeah, I mean, the other things that are really important is to we've reached the point where like trying to do bake-offs between models and things like that is an interesting exercise, but ultimately, like, you can leave that to the labs,
right?
And people that are interested in that kind of technology. But let's just assume for a minute that foundational models are going to be good from the big guys, right? That are well known that do this. And so the real lesson to learn is to have an aggressive and iterative implementation plan. So in other words, not like something that's going to take 18 months and like, some big new application that you're going to roll out, but to really start to think about how to integrate AI optimization into existing applications and existing workflows. That's kind of the big lesson that we learn. Because ultimately, like, if it's like, okay, we're going to do the AI project, that ends up not providing the value that we think that it's going to provide. It's like, how do I start thinking about like every individual program application owner in the entire enterprise and say, give me your plan as to how you're going to leverage this AI capability that we're providing to you to optimize your part of the mission in the next year. Like that's the question to be asking.
Right. That's a great question. You have a lot of case studies.
Yeah.
I want to touch on some of those. How has Google Public Sector helped defense agencies employ AI for improved mission outcomes? And I'm saying, I think to your point, it's not a lab. It's improving mission outcomes. So that's like, there's a very practical application there. So let's.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things is every time in the popular imagination you think about AI, people's minds automatically race to like Terminator, right?
Right.
And like, or, the all-knowing, thing, or, that's gonna do that. And what we found is like, some of the earliest and like low-hanging wins that are available from AI technology is in optimizing the bureaucracy of any large organization. So if you think about like, what are some examples of things that that you would deal with on a daily basis? Is you're dealing with a situation in your organization and you ask yourself, is this within policy? So you think about that in the average organization. How long does it take you to answer that question authoritatively, right? There is some regulation for sure that probably addresses this particular thing, but like, I got to go find the regulation. I got to go find someone who's an expert.
Got to get in the handbook.
Got to go, all these kinds of things. Imagine for a minute if at any given moment you've got something that is an authoritative source on every possible regulation that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Travel, expenses, how to write certain documents. It doesn't matter what it is. And then you can just ask it and get an authoritative answer. So that's like a very simple example of like, that's literally can be applied to any single or large organization. Another very simple example is everybody has unbelievable amounts of data in their organization, right? And we bucket it into three types: structured, unstructured, and tribal. So there's knowledge, right? So structured knowledge, we've figured out how to share that broadly with the entire organization. It's the concept of a knowledge base, right? Those have existed for a long time. Unstructured information, right? It's in documents, it's in PDF files and things like that. AI is good at helping with that. But what I'm really, really, really excited about for AI is the tribal knowledge. So it's kind of like the knowledge that's in people's emails, in chats, in all these other kinds of things. Imagine for a minute that we can harness the power of all of that and be able to ask and answer get authoritative answers to questions. I think that's going to be really powerful. And so those kinds of use cases of like being able to collect and interrogate the entire knowledge base of an organization at scale is, I think, going to be one of the most powerful uses. And we're doing that kind of for lots of different customers today.
That's great.
I mean, one fun story that I like to tell is we had one particular customer that was, they have a very specialized skill set that less than 10 people in the entire organization of tens of thousands of people know this. And these folks are, on my end of the age distribution, so they're getting a little older, right? And so it's like, these people are going to retire at some point, right? Yeah. And nobody's coming in to replace them. So it's kind of like we're thinking about like an actual AI as a succession plan for a very, very specialized skill set. So I'm really, really excited about all of those kinds of capabilities.
That's a really, really great use. So can you talk a little bit about the integration process and some of the challenges that people have had to overcome? I mean, just a follow-up question too. I mean, is there, if you're an AI, if you're a leader out there facing resistance at your agency, like some advice on what you've seen, some pitfalls, and
Yeah, I mean, some of the pitfalls are like it's trust, right? Because like at the end of the day, integrating any kind of advanced capability like artificial intelligence into a workflow that hasn't been used before, there's like, how can I trust its results? And there is no compression algorithm for trust. It takes time, and it takes results, and it takes engagement. It takes
verification,
training. It takes verification. What we found is the concept of like A/B processes, right? So it's in other words like you don't like, okay, we're doing AI now. It's like I'm doing both for a while, right? And I can look and compare for quite a while. And collect the results, make modifications as necessary until when I'm deciding to have the AI-enabled process be the primary process that I'm using in my organization. So that's kind of like one really important thing. Some of the pitfalls that we've seen is our attempts to define like almost like a set of requirements for like what is AI going to mean to this organization, and then try to drive that into a single RFP and all this kind of stuff, and like let me go buy the AI now. Like it doesn't really work well like that, right? Yeah. It's a very kind of like iterative process to be able to inject these capabilities into those workflows. So that would be kind of like our recommendation is don't assume that I can build like, a center of excellence and then they're going to go off and talk to all the vendors and then come back and say like, this is the AI thing that we're going to go buy and it's going to be awesome. It's a much more a nuanced effort than that.
But just kind of a follow-on question on that. I mean, what have you seen in terms of like structure? Like I saw the rise of the chief data officer a few years ago, and data. Who are you seeing? Kind of, are there places where people are in charge? Certain positions are in charge of AI. Is it the CIO? Is it the Are you seeing anything? It's like that kind of looks good, or it should be with the mission, or it should be with everyone.
It ultimately needs to be with everyone,
right?
Right. Like it's but at the end of the day. The everyone part of it is all about the capabilities group in an organization providing the tools that enable everyone to be their own AI experimenter.
That's great.
Right, at the end of the day, right? So, but there has to be someone, obviously, that's responsible for, the technology direction of the organization, providing capabilities and those kinds of things. But like, an example of, kind of how we think about it is, we call our implementation of an agent space. But the idea here is like, it's a general platform, and then the different folks can build their own agents on top of it that are unique to their specific workflows. So, whether it's like, let's take an example of a tech company like ours. We've got sales, we've got, professional services, we've got finance, we've got like all these different folks. Every single one of these organizations are using the tools that the company provides in order to kind of like build their own AI workflows that are useful to them. And one of the most interesting ones that we've seen are that AI tends to be a really, really good cross-functional interface.
I would imagine that would be a very
So in other words, like if I want to go talk to my marketing colleagues, rather than me pinging them 27 different questions, they might provide me with like literally an AI agent that can answer all the questions that I might have of them anyway, right?
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice because you can again, it's automating the toil.
Yeah, that's great. One final question I have to ask is, how does Google approach compliance as part of the security journey?
Yeah, so for us, compliance is a necessary but insufficient in and of itself part of the security journey. And the way we think about compliance is as a continuing process. So in other words, like it's like this idea of like, hey, we're now compliant. Like we don't really subscribe to like that being like this major milestone.
Right.
It's like I am continually achieving a state of compliance over time. And I may not be 100% at any given moment, and I'm never going to be, but that's okay. But we think of compliance as like this standard that we aspire to.
Yeah, so it's a journey, not a,
going.
Yeah,
That's
definitely,
right.
Exactly. Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
joining me.
having me.
This is wonderful. Thank you.